Alright, we got some reacts. Hold on, my shit might be too loud. Hold on. We got hardest punches tier list. Let's get it.
You can't be Mr. Nice Guy in boxing.
Nigel Ben. Yeah, that nigga was scary, bro.
I love to crush bones and spill blood, you know.
Wilder.
But I believe that whenever I hit my opponent in the right place.
Now this guy I think is pound for pound the hardest puncher. But we're gonna see if that's true. We're gonna see if they feel the same.
He cannot stay up.
Yeah, I can really do damage to your body physically and your brain.
George is up there too, for sure. God damn. The G-Man. I think he's neck and neck with Hawk.
He's not a boxer. He's a puncher.
Hi, I'm Mike Tyson, heavyweight champ of the world. Let's talk boxing.
Hi, I'm Mike Tyson, heavyweight champ of the world. Let's talk boxing. Mike, please, as long as you don't punch me in my floor, I'll be alright, bro. Please. I don't want no smoke, Mike. I'm sorry.
Welcome back to another canonizing video celebrating the biggest one-hitter quitters in the sport of boxing.
That power is, man, it scares me sometimes.
On today's video, we're attempting to rank the consensus top 50 hardest punchers throughout the 140-year history of prize fighting.
Dempsey? Type shit.
We have here Jack Dempsey, the very, very vicious man.
I've decided to use the tried and trusted tier list format to classify each fighter. And of course, the selectees will be ranked by their pound-for-pound punching ability, or else Julian Jackson would be the only guy outside of the heavyweights to even have a slight chance of featuring on such a list.
I just like to say to Mike Tyson, man, you know, I could do it too, you know.
God damn, Julian. Damn, boy. God.
Here to make things less congested. And while there will be numerous fighters ranked at the bottom, you have to remember they'll only be considered the weakest punchers among the 50 or so greatest KO artists in history. There are no losers here.
And I was scared then. I'm only frightened this time.
There's a lot to get through, so I'll try my best to explain my criteria for the rankings as the video progresses.
Okay, he's moving is better, dancing is better, or maybe he's taller. This is nothing after first punch.
To kick things off,
Type shit.
putting one fighter in each category will help us find a base for the rankings, and then we can just start slotting guys in freely thereafter. Which brings me on to a modern-day counterpunching specialist, Gervonta Tank Davis.
Damn.
A fighter that has been knocking on the door to enter the pound-for-pound
Look at
list
Tank
for the last
lost?
few years. Tank Davis has built quite the reputation of a one-punch specialist who lures his opponents in by setting crafty traps.
Yep.
A smart fighter and a ruthless finisher, Tank has the ability to generate ridiculous power even while he's
Damn. He did that nigga Rolly so dirty, man. That's the game.
backward. I've created a performance card for a few of the first fighters listed today.
Alright, let's see. 93 power, 82 defense. I think it's 90 defense. 85 heart. You haven't really seen his heart. 91 IQ. Yeah. Is that speed? Speed needs to be much higher, I'm not gonna lie. It might be higher than his power. High key think Tank's speed is higher than his power. Chin 88. Yeah. I'm glad they caught that. Man, I think defense and speed need to be much higher for sure.
You guys can understand my thought process. Only the power stat is relevant for the video, and I believe Tank is one of the best pure punchers of the last decade or so, right up there with coveted figures of the past. Tank is setting a pretty high bar there, but to go one step further,
A tier,
we
yeah,
need a
makes
consensual
sense.
killer that leaves no room for discussion or debate. And who better than the immovable wrecking machine, Big George Foreman?
We got George.
It's the
Man, he spanked that nigga Frazier.
as he split his career in two with a 10-year layoff in between. He was a very different fighter upon his return. Certainly more presented as an immovable object as opposed to the wrecking machine of his youth.
Damn.
But one thing that never changed was his power. George.
Holy fuck, he hits hard, bro. Holy shit.
Knock you into next week with a glancing blow. Freakish power generated by such a low amount of torque
Jesus.
defied the scientific equation for force. But in the end, the raw
He's doing that shit just
combined with his crafty setups and persistence made him one of the most dangerous men who has ever stepped in the ring, regardless of how crude and against the grain it looked at times.
nigga, that shit, bro, that shit hurt me. I wasn't even in the ring. I wasn't even born back then. That shit hurt me.
Straight away is Chris Eubank Sr.
Whew.
I think there are certain versions of Eubank that could give him a much higher rank. I mean, his ability to clean a clock with a single blow can't be refuted. But due to multiple circumstances, one including a tragedy in the ring, he gradually lost that killer instinct and became more comfortable with winning over the distance.
You are mine, you belong to me. I am the man.
He lived by the warrior's code, almost a self-hating discipline to a degree, as he welcomed taking his licks more than the average prize fighter, which resulted in him having a slightly underwhelming KO percentage, considering the knack he had in his younger years. Overall, however, still a solid puncher that I consider one of the most dangerous around the 160-pound.
E-tier, wow.
And this gets done to him by a bunch of cowards at ringside that never took a punch in their life. I'm sick of it.
It's
I really
impossible
watched
to
Eubank.
rank iconic fighters like this without ruffling a few feathers, so we might as well get a big one out of the way right now with
Here we go,
the
AJ.
heavyweight champion from the pre-war
Oh,
era,
Jack Dempsey. I feel like Jack Dempsey is C-tier. I don't think his power was crazy. I think what was crazy was his speed and his volume. I could be wrong though.
Once considered the most notable face across the entirety of the United States, even more so than the active president of the time, Jack Dempsey was a major deal in sports entertainment post-World War I.
Dempsey has now become the biggest thing on the sports landscape, including Babe Ruth.
While boxing was already a mainstream sport during its early inception of the gloved era, Dempsey can be credited as the guy who took things to another level, transforming what was often seen as a test of their wrestling ability as much as their punching capability into a firefight, where the goal was just to get their opponent out of there in a fashion that is much more akin to how we see things today.
And Jack Dempsey comes out with the most ferocious left hook in the history of boxing, including Joe Frazier's.
Dempsey was a savage, unquestionably a big puncher, but more of a high-volume brawler than a one-punch specialist.
I'm saying.
That's why I think that he's more suited to the B category for now. I might change it.
Wait, is that 76 hard? Oh, 90 hard. Alright, I'm about to say. Yeah, 81 IQ. I gotta watch Dempsey more.
B category for now. I might change a few things later, and if I do,
B tier?
Dempsey will certainly only move in one direction.
Oh man, I'm crazy about Jack Dempsey. Because of his ferocious intensity, man. There's no one like him.
Can I try again?
To highlight the importance of a body of work in my criteria, let's take a closer look at the only fighter listed here with a 100% KO rate, Edwin Valero.
Let's see if you listen to his
Ah,
Valero is definitely one of the
ain't this the
greatest
wait,
stories in
ain't this the nigga that died in the car crash?
boxing. Despite being a champion in 2 weight divisions, his career was cut short right around the moment boxing fans were anticipating some high-level, pound-for-pound showdowns that would have undoubtedly certified Valero's legacy for better or worse.
Oh, and down goes Peterson on the counter. Wow, what a punch.
In his mind, he thought that he can go out there and just by throwing the first few shots, he would destroy the opponent. And he was right.
He was a strong, big-punching, high-volume brawler who won all 27 of his fights by knockout, with 19 in the first round. Yet, he didn't quite produce a body of work that could force his name to be in the mix with some of the ATGs that will place higher on the list.
In 121 professional fights, Robinson has lost only 1.
To accentuate this list being entirely about punching,
Sugar Ray?
I will slot the consensus GOAT of boxing at a modest
C.
Boy, I saw him at his best, and he was the best fighter ever lived, pound for pound.
Sugar Ray Robinson was the perfect fighter in every sense. You can play out his highlight reel for casual or even non-boxing fans, and his glaring greatness is apparent for all to see. And then, under the microscope of boxing's harshest critics and historians, his resume stands above most, if not all, of his iconic counterparts throughout history.
Ferocious. Holy moly.
His prime, the best and the greatest pound for...
The thing is, we never saw Sugar Ray Robinson in his prime. There's no footage of him in his prime. Everything is before and after his prime.
The perfect all
and he's doing this shit.
Outbox the boxers and outslug the sluggers. Perhaps more known for his speed of hands and feet.
He got that huzz. He got that huzz, you know.
Perhaps more known.
Them niggas had waves back then.
For his speed of hands and feet.
Because he has 90 power, but he's in C tier. Alright. Damn, this nigga's overall is high.
But he could also turn out the lights on some of the most durable and resilient opponents with a single shot once the opportunity presented itself.
No one can touch Russia and Cuba and Poland. Anybody on the planet beating them all.
Sugar Ray is a rare fighter in the 100 Club for knockouts, being the only former middleweight champion in history to achieve this feat. A legend, an icon, a GOAT.
Pound for pound, meaning that I imagine if he was a heavyweight fighting the same style, he'd be the greatest.
Now that we've got some of the structure set, allow me to slot in a few guys off the cusp without racking my brain.
Tito.
Alexis Argolla, an iconic puncher around the super featherweight limit, more of a high volume guy than a one-hitter quitter, but a wrecking machine nevertheless. Bob Foster rarely went the distance during his peak as light heavyweight champion in the early 70s. Tall and rangy, he even fancied himself against the likes of Joe Frazier and Muhammad Ali, despite a 30 to 40 pound weight disadvantage.
I am so strong. I am so powerful.
Vitaly?
Superman.
Vitaly Klitschko was a man mountain in the 2000s, a true modern-day heavyweight who emphasized every inch of his height in the ring. I think of him more for his strength, but he certainly had some pop. Similar sentiments can be made for Vitaly's brother, Vladimir. He was more of a glass cannon than his brother, but I would argue he was a technically better puncher in his prime. Bob Fitzsimmons was everything Bob Foster was, but he made his power count upon moving up to heavyweight. And by moving up, I mean just weighing the same as he always did, 170 or so pounds, and then just wreaking havoc on guys twice his size. The OG puncher, a real killer during the sport's early years of the gloved era.
Lennox Lewis is the best. I laid them all to rest.
Lennox Lewis. I would argue a better puncher than the Klitschko brothers, despite his KO percentage being slightly lower. He cleaned out an entire generation of heavyweights. He beat every man he ever faced, and outside of immovable objects like Holyfield and Mercer, all
Lennox's competition was the best. I think that's pretty obvious. That's why his KO percentage isn't as high, because you just find bad people. It's just natural. That's just naturally what's gonna happen.
All of his memorable nights in the ring resulted in his opponents flat on their backs.
A genetic freak. And I played with boxing, so
let's go, champ!
Shannon Briggs was a fun heavyweight who certainly left his mark as a decent KO artist, particularly during his rise in the 90s. Admittedly, a bit of a can crusher, but he achieved everything he could in the sport.
Let's go, champ. Don't be scared, ladies. I'm just in shape. Don't get scared. I'm just in shape.
I know that there will be a lot of debate amongst the guys ranked from A to E, but I at least want to be sure that everyone is content with the fighters in S, which brings us on to perhaps the most brutal single puncher of all time,
George.
Julian the Hawk Jackson.
That nigga, put that nigga directly in X, in S tier, bro. Yep.
Jackson fought for many years.
See, that nigga up on the way down, too. Appreciate you, my nigga.
For many years in the shadows
That's
of
crazy.
pay-per-view stars of his own time. It wasn't until he retired and video sharing sites like YouTube came around that casual sports fans realized they messed up by not tuning into the boxing until the main event, because this guy was straight breaking the competition on a lot of the popular Don King undercards in the 90s.
Oh, the hardest punch in junior middleweight today.
He wasn't the most well-coordinated and had questionable punch resistance himself, but his get-out-of-jail-free card was the most effective escape from an ass-whooping I've ever seen in the sport.
But I believe that whenever I hit my opponent in the right places, he cannot stay up.
Shut your bitch ass.
The current light heavyweight champion, Artur Peterby,
A-.
has a 100% knockout rate with some decent skills to rely on against the more resilient opponents.
He's the only world champion that's in boxing today.
Wait, really? Lower than Tank?
Knockout ratio for every fight he's ever been in.
Frank Bruno was a scary man to deal with in the opening rounds. Brutish strength with a remarkable straight right hand. He was built like a Greek god, which didn't really help him.
Yeah, that nigga's voice is deep as fuck, too.
Any cruiserweight in the world cannot take my power. Any heavyweight in the world definitely can't take my power.
If David Haye had just seen out his last days at cruiserweight, I have no doubt fans would have remembered him as an ATG at that limit. Still, a couple lackluster performances at heavyweight really soured and tarnished the reputation of one of the most explosive athletes of the 2000s.
Nigga look like my dad.
Was the hardest puncher among the four kings, a true product of the Kronk. It's between A.
I put him in A tier.
I'll go with B for now, and maybe.
No. That nigga hit hard. You want to talk about power? That boy right there was different, bro. Tommy, holy moly.
Later.
Yes, I would fight more rounds and make him more pain.
Sergey Kovalev was an impressive boxer-puncher in his prime, very methodical in how he set up his power punches. A tremendous technical boxer, but a bit of a flat-track bully whose resilience seemingly disappeared overnight. Both Duran and Chavez are boxers I'm worried about ranking here, given the fact they are notorious, skillful pressure fighters that broke accumulation of punishment. C tier for now.
See, I don't know though. I think Duran should be higher, because that guy was like a natural light welterweight going up to 170 or some shit like that. I think Duran should be at least B tier. I don't know, man.
Next up, we have, as Frank Bruno once said, the most dangerous #1 hitman in America, the G-Man, Gerald McClellan.
Oh man, this nigga was crazy.
McClellan was a perfect all-rounder, rangy, quick with a crushing jab and rib-breaking body punches. His potential was untapped until it was unlocked by Emmanuel Stewart of the Kronk, who fine-tuned his finishing ability, imploring him to follow up and close the show once his man was hurt.
You've never been past 8 rounds? No, I will never go past 8 rounds again.
Gerald never. His power appeared effortless, just a heavy-handed individual.
Body shots, man.
I believe his name is from highlights, and he seems like a dynamo.
A fighter that I'm sure many people are eager to see place today. For my money, the most popular boxer ever based purely on his talent. Iron Mike Tyson.
Low S tier. Oh shit. I gotta move my keyboard.
Looking back on
he turned that nigga around. That nigga was looking for his car keys, bruh. He said, I'm on my way out, man. Fuck all that shit.
Tyson's career in retrospect, I see him as almost a lab rat, an experiment.
Yeah, this nigga was
scientist, a physically imposing kid, brainwashed to believe that there wasn't a single man on earth that could compete with him in the squared circle.
Bro, could you imagine if Cus D'Amato lived? Like, could you imagine the absolute maniac of a monster Mike would have been? Controlled too? Like, if Cus was born 10 years younger or 20 years younger, bro, Mike probably would have been greatest of all time. That nigga would have been different. Just the discipline, bro. Mike would have been completely different.
And I'm just convinced, you know what I mean? I didn't challenge me with their somewhat primitive skills. They're just as good as dead.
Tyson was a credit to himself, his coaches, and the sport in general. Everything he achieved in the game was off his own back, dedicating his entire youth to being the most technically efficient fighter.
Yeah, he was.
Fighter in the world, pound for pound.
He was being Revolta's ass like he called him a bitch or something. Like he was being. You seen that one video? Imagine a nigga just beating your ass. Damn.
A short heavyweight that packed the punch of a behemoth while delivering it at the speeds of a flyweight. A great combination puncher. Left hooks, uppercuts, there weren't many shots Tyson couldn't deliver as well as, if not better, than the single shot specialist throughout history. An incredible fighter whose highlight reel certifies an S-tier placement on even the harshest critics' list.
Sacrificed so much and we put in so much, and I just knew we couldn't fail.
Bro.
Aaron Pryor, an offensive whirlwind that could throw 1,000 punches.
I have to watch Aaron Pryor.
Sweat.
I haven't really watched him.
Aggression and crushing power. Not many could withstand his onslaught. With a staggering 132 knockouts, the old mongoose, Archie Moore, certainly knew his way around the ring and how to break a man down. Infamous for his technique, the craftiest of all, one of the greatest fighters of all time.
AJ. I say A tier.
Similar vein to Vladimir
D minus.
Anthony Joshua is a big punching heavyweight who has adapted his style to be more methodical after suffering a KO defeat. Slightly underrated and
D minus.
Man to trade with on the inside. A fighter that's been forgotten with time, Peter Maher was the ultimate test for a rising heavyweight in the late 1800s. An old school badass who would go out on his shield trying to land that finishing blow. Looking up and seeing Pryor and Argoyo together, it's only fitting that we get these two up there additionally. Zarate and Gomez were the hardest punching bantamweights of all time, and luckily for us, they fought in the same era. The 70s bantam and featherweight era was incredible, just unfortunately overshadowed by a golden generation of heavyweights. One-trick ponies are underrated, especially when that one trick is as great as Razor Ruddock's smash.
Woo! Damn. Damn! Bro, I gotta watch that one more time. Hold on. Yeah, please. Oh. Ah!
As one-dimensional as you can imagine, Ruddock's smash was everything. His jab, his hook, his uppercut, he would deal with it and also use it while being pressured moving backward. Technically, the punch
he was whipping Tommy's ass.
A cross between an uppercut and a hook. But Ruddock made it his own thing, knocked many foes out with it, and dished out some life-altering punishment for those that withstood it.
Hit that nigga with a Detroit smash. That nigga's, bruh. Fuck all that.
Entirely against the grain, and I absolutely loved it.
He punches like a mule kick. Oh my god.
Next, we have a man whose reputation has almost become mythological during the digital age, and in my opinion, the single greatest fighter that has ever lived, the Boston Terror, Sam Langford.
Who this nigga Sam?
The same as ever. I think Langford was one of the greatest.
5'9" heavyweight. You know how hard you have to hit?
I probably would have got knocked out, and I'm glad I never had the opportunity to.
In short, Langford started his career as a lightweight.
This nigga's head, bro. God.
With over 100 knockouts at that limit alone. He fought the most Hall of Famers in history, and I would argue produced the most momentous body of work among all prize fighters throughout time.
None of these guys have retained their punch power as long as Langford did. None of them. None of them can claim the victories that Langford has from lightweight to heavy.
Lightweight to heavyweight. Like, what the fuck? What are we doing, bro? Lightweight to heavyweight. Lightweight to 140, 147, 154, 160, 168. 175, 190, heavyweight. That's 7 weight class. Oh man, he's still going beat. But that's still a bigger deal because the power difference, man.
Jack Dempsey openly admitted to ducking Langford because, as he put it,
I bet.
simple terms,
Shoot, I don't even blame the nigga.
Similar sentiments were shared by the guys who actually had the nerve to face him, including Harry Wills, who described one of his knockout defeats to Sam as a near-death experience. I thought I was dead when I hit the canvas. A common argument people use to discredit Langford or other greats like Harry Greb is there isn't enough footage to determine their greatness. My response would be to simply pick up a book or read a few articles. For instance, it's not like anyone with logical reasoning would consider George W. Bush a greater conqueror than Genghis Khan based purely on the fact that there is footage from the War on Terror.
Fair enough.
Regardless, Langford was a great fighter and a murderous puncher.
But Langford is different to that. Langford took his power up and still maintained the ability to knock big men out even with single shots, which is quite remarkable and very different to other fighters who've moved up in weight.
Bro, that's insane.
Felix Trinidad had an impressive run as welterweight champion in the late 90s, knocking out 16 opponents in his 20 world title fights.
Type
if he
shit.
didn't knock you out with the left hook, the follow-up straight right was certain to get the job done. As some of you might have noticed, all the fighters are listed in alphabetical order, and by total coincidence, 3 heavyweight goats, Liston, Lewis, and Marciano, are all bunched up, ready to be placed together in nothing short of the highest tier possible. Joe Lewis is the biggest puncher of the 3, closely followed by Marciano. I'm not sure Liston will make the final cut in S because I was planning on having no more than 10 in there, but let's see how things change later on.
When he fought, he basically intimidated his opponent. They were intimidated before they even got in the ring. He was a massive guy. On all circuits, he was just utterly awesome.
Jimmy Wild is a difficult one to rank, infamous for his crazy winning record and ridiculously high KO percentage at flyweight. However, his weight limit was only in its infancy during his peak, so the competition was only really there for him once he was well past his best.
And after the second round, I understand it is not boxing. I need street fight. Like, you know, just broke him.
Gennady Triple G Golovkin
Feel that.
used a legendary aura from the moment he made it onto the big HBO shows in the 2010s. Cut from the same cloth as Greb, Monzon, and Hagler, but unfortunately didn't have the dance partners to create a legacy or resume anywhere near.
Yeah, that's real.
Worthy.
That's
a
real.
Destroy master, nevertheless.
I just realized Hagler isn't on this list.
The monster, Naoya Inoue, is
It's
a
tough.
bona fide first ballot Hall of Famer,
Yep.
an all-time great with plenty of miles left on the clock to improve upon his already
Yep.
legendary title run. He moves like the wind and strikes like lightning, the
Yep.
deadliest skill set in the world today. Sometimes, scoring a knockout goes beyond the typical variables we think of, such as technique, punching power, or the opponent's weaknesses. It can often boil down to the simplicity of the will to win, the eagerness to close the show, accepting the risks that coincide with maxed out efforts. Which brings us on to the man who knew a thing or two about risk-taking, someone who certainly wasn't in the game to play pity-pat boxing, the Dark Destroyer, Nigel Benn.
Yeah, he was scary. That's a scary nigga right there. Ah.
Ben was like a greyhound out of the gates, straight to the point.
He was
seeking to
quick
destroy. That
and
was his
strong,
weakness,
bro.
His attitude in preparation, and something
And he
was
didn't
willing
care
to
where you
put out
threw.
on shield for in execution.
And the nigga, and the nigga didn't care about his own haircut. Cause what is, Jesus Christ, bro? What is that?
Ben was less technically skilled than most of the guys listed today. He was just an explosive offensive whirlwind who relied on his inner fire to fuel him throughout the majority of his career.
Just like his son. Nigga was fighting on straight bullshit. Nigga didn't care about what is boxing. Nigga, I'm here to. Your head is going away from your neck. Cause this nigga wasn't playing, bruh.
Who wants to have a fight with you?
Similar to Nigel Benn, another fighter I enjoyed watching back, particularly during their developmental period as a pro, is Tommy the Duke Morrison.
Yeah, he hit hard too. Jeez. I think he goes in S tier, low key.
Despite doing damn near everything he could to destroy his own chances of becoming a top-level pro, such as heavy drinking and slacking off during training, Morrison's athletic genetics persevered to help him fulfill a respectable career.
Yeah, I think he goes to S tier, bro.
With talent the heavyweight landscape was in the 1990s.
Oh.
During the short time he actually had his head screwed on, Tommy was a great student who was always looking to improve and implement techniques fresh out of the gym directly.
Yeah, that's S tier power right there.
But I will be a heavyweight champion as well. So boxing fans, watch out.
He had a great left hook, likened to that of Joe Frazier, backed up by decent speed for a heavyweight and an honest work rate to keep his opponents on their toes.
I've been playing catch up to the Ray Mercers and Lennox.
Wait, where do you put him?
Because I never really
C tier?
Initial
What? C?
experience as an amateur that they did. So I've been playing catch up, and now I feel like I'm closing the gap just a little bit.
How?
Joe Frazier, I would say he could punch at a level above the Morrisons and Ruddicks of the world.
Really?
An icon and focal point of the most celebrated heavyweight generation in history, with his infamous left hook being the most memorable single shot of that time.
Nobody cares.
Never scared of anybody in the ring. Now be honest.
I remember Joe Frazier. He was the toughest guy I'd ever seen.
Yeah.
Smoking Joe Frazier. Hit a guy so hard the guy turned his back.
If some of the stories that I've read about James J. Jeffries were true, then he would have to rank up here somewhere. But, and it's a big but, how much of it is true? I don't want to backtrack on my rant about why Sam Langford is so great from earlier, but some of the writings
I don't know about
Jeffries
this guy,
are
bro.
more fictitious. It was like creative writers of that time were trying to develop a superhero 30 or so years before they became prevalent in pop culture. Either way, Jeffries was unquestionably a force to reckon with during the turn of the century.
I think Monzon was the last great middleweight champion. And when I'm done,
Hagler.
I would like to go down in history as the same way.
Carlos Monzon was the middleweight champion of the 1970s, a winning machine that retired on a 61 fight unbeaten streak. He packed a deadly straight right hand.
That's what I'm telling you.
Featherweights with Prince Nassim, when they get hit, it's a whole different story.
Prince Nassim Hamed had arguably the most unconventional style for a pound-for-pound level fighter.
A-tier? Wow.
He relied heavily on his reflexes and dug himself out of danger time and again with his out-of-this-world one-punch power. David Tua epitomizes why winning a heavyweight title in the 90s.
Yeah, that nigga hit hard as hell too.
Despite competing in the alphabet era. The short and stocky heavyweight
Jesus
was blessed
Christ.
with those Polynesian genetics, strong as an ox, and he could knock you out with every punch in the book.
Bro.
And you get a great show, and then always get spoiled with some BS like this.
I've run into a bit of a problem here at the end, with the last 5 fighters, Stanley Ketchel, Sandy Sadler, Ernie Shavers, Adonis Stevenson, and Deontay Wilder, all worthy of an S-tier placement in my opinion. So, I'm going to create an S+ tier at the very top to at least try and narrow down what I consider to be the very best of the best.
Fair enough. Yep.
Jackson makes it in without question, as does George Foreman.
Yep.
Of the newcomers, Ernie Shavers had...
Yep, put that nigga in. No. What are you doing, bro? Put that nigga first, my nigga. Put that nigga first. Put Shavers first, man. What are you doing? Put him first, now.
Time attests to being the most fortunate...
Oh my god, bro. Oh my god.
Power that every heavyweight of his time attests to being the most forceful of that generation. Sentiment shared by many historians who all rank him as a top 5 puncher in history.
The best one-punch fighter, the one greatest punch I have ever seen, is owned by a man named Ernie Shavers.
The true meaning of pound for pound is if you transfer a fighter's skill set directly into a different weight class. How
I don't know about this guy.
Which is why Sandy Sadler is comfortably an S+ tier puncher. The heaviest-handed lower-weight fighter in history, with the highest KO percentage among all boxers with over 100 stoppages.
Oh?
Lewis and Marciano both make the cut, and I would make the case that if we can all agree Shavers is up with the best, then so is Deontay Wilder.
Most definitely.
He doesn't have a first-rate resume, but he has proven himself against a decent level of competition long enough for me to comfortably put him alongside the legends of the past.
Because it's going to come. It's just when it come. And when it do come, bam, baby, good night.
Now, I just need to rework things a little bit to satisfy my structuring OCD. Okay, and there we have it.
Alright, let's see. I still think Ernie is the best, but I don't know about Sandler and shit. Yes, this looks about right. Except AJ, where's AJ? E? Yeah, AJ needs to be like at least B tier. And Tommy needs to be A tier. For sure. Triple G C tier, it should be. This guy needs to be like A tier or S tier at the very least.
Have it.
Ooh, I guess
the
so.
top 50 boxers in history rank
That's what's
purely on
up.
their punching ability. I'm sure there are many of you at home pulling your hair out on some of the placements, but just remember it's only my opinion, and you're free to have yours too by heading over to my X profile and clicking the link at the bottom of my Hardest Punchers thread, and that will lead you directly to this tier list page where you can slot in all the iconic punchers at your own will. Until next time, this has been Punchers Season on Boxing Legends TV.
How about you rate your performance? I'm always giving myself a 0. I'm never impressed.
Have you given yourself an A yet?
Never. Perhaps never will.
Probably never will.
I'm liking that video, bro. That was a good ass video.